Viewports. Viewports are a way we can see into our models, into our scenes. By default, we have 4 equally sized viewports. This allows us to see the objects from different angles. By default, we have a top viewport looking down from above. We have a front viewport looking at it from straight on from the front. And we also have a left viewport. And we go here. I believe we have our left viewport here. And we also have a perspective over here. Now, so by default we have these 4 so that we can see them. I can pick in between which viewport is active by simply picking in each viewport with our left mouse button. Okay? When a viewport is active, all our tools and commands in 3ds Max will be applied to that viewport. Okay, so you'll notice it has a yellow border when it's active. Now, if you like the keyboards, you can use Windows Shift command. So I use the Windows key, and then I use Shift, and Shift, and Shift, and Shift, and it will jump from viewport to viewport. I'm not a fan of that. I just like to simply click into which viewport I like. Okay. Now, I can resize these viewports. If I click here right in the middle, I can move with this 4-sided arrow, and I can adjust then how big I want things. So maybe I want my perspective view to be the biggest viewport. Now, I can also then, if I don't like it, hover right over that intersection of the 4 viewports with having the 4-sided arrow. I can right-click and say reset the layout. It'll go back to its original sizes. You'll notice that I have a grid in each one. Each viewport has a local coordinate system. And the world coordinate system will fix these axes for all objects, but each viewport will have its own coordinate system. It has a grid in here in each viewport that you can use as a guide. I come down here into the perspective viewport. I can turn the grid on and off by hitting the G. I hit the G, the grid is gone. I hit the G, the grid comes back. So you just hitting the G on the keyboard and the grid comes on and off. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner of each viewport we have 3 items. The first item on the left is called the General Viewport Label. Okay, that's this thing right here. If I click on it, I get these options. The next one, I have our Point of View viewport label, and I can pick which point of view I want. And my last one is my shading viewport label. So I can come down here, I can pick on, let's say right now, this one's shading. So I can actually come down here and pick on the shading and say, I want to come down and I could pick shaded, for example. I could pick consistent colors. I can pick down here and stylize. I could come down here and say, oh, I want to go with colored pencil. And you can see I get a total different look here. In my stylize, I could go with pastel. All right. So I like to go with realistic. Up here, I see I have wireframe. So I can change the point of view. So at any time, I want to be able to be using these three viewports so I can see things from different angles and I can get a different perspective of what I'm designing down in here. And I personally tend to like to have a perspective view so I see it as it would look like in 3D and with my real eyes. But I also like the other three basic views to give it, three different views on our standard axes. So these are called viewports, and we can use them to see their objects from different angles is its purpose.